This is one of the most amazing, like, um, like the inability to have any kind of introspection is stunning, especially when it comes to Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly, boy, do they love talking about Trump. Greg Kelly reports on Newsmax. I'm glad, by the way, that they put this part on. Probably part of his contract. We're not going to give you more money, but we will put Greg Kelly reports on Newsmax on all of the videos we post on YouTube. Okay, as long as Trump calls into my show. Yeah. So boy, do they love talking about Trump. Donna Brazile on ABC this week to talk about Trump, probably about the January 6th thing. We'll see.
I've been upfront about it. I want Donald Trump to come back. I'd love to see him as president again.
Yes, Greg. We all know you're dumb.
I thought we'd have to wait until at least the midterms closer to or 2024 before we really saw him out.
No. I mean, he's desperate for money. He can't afford to stay out of the limelight for even a second. Otherwise, he'll be selling his properties, and he can't run while his property's in probate. Now, they probably will already, and he's also got to push back against the legal problems that he's having. So being out and about really helps, to create this narrative that he can somehow shake these legal issues, which he can't.
No, just turn on the fake news any day, especially on Sundays when they have their big political talk shows. And boy, do they love to talk about Trump. They love.
Well, that was the week of January 6th. And those are culmination shows. Those aren't nightly. Most of the time, they don't give a fuck unless he pops himself up and says something as a former president. In this country, we do take our former presidents seriously. And I agree with you, Greg. In the case of Trump, it's probably not a good idea and not necessary and a complete waste of time. And if there's a singularly more forgettable president than Donald Trump, I can't think of one. When was he president? That was like 2006. When the fuck did that happen? It's been so long.
To hate him, and they're really frustrated right now because January 6th, all the hype about January 6th did not do what they intended it to do, which would be cancel Donald Trump. They wanted this to stigmatize the former president so bad, and they're actually openly marveling that their plan didn't work.
I'm a pretty cynical guy. I've been doing this a long time. On January 7th, 2021, I think I'm guessing you were there too. I really thought, okay, this is it. This is the breaking point. Lindsey Graham, enough is enough. Count me out. It all felt like a moment. How did a year later we go to a Republican Party that is more in the grips of Donald Trump?
Because we love the guy and we trust him. And you guys, the fake news, have been lying to us for decades.
By the way,
right?
Greg, no, Greg, the reason is because you have no one else and you have daddy issues. Greg, you can't quit Trump. This is Dirtback Mountain, buddy. There's no way you could get rid of Trump. Who else? Who's gonna fill daddy's shoes? Can't happen. See, while the rest of us are looking for a president, you're looking for a papa. Someone, Papa, please tell me I'm worthwhile. Tell me I have meaning.
Gone into overdrive recently. We like Donald Trump, all right? Get that through your heads. We know him.
No, we know you like him. We just use that because we could give two shits about him. We just use that as an indicator of whether or not you have any ethics or morals or actually care about the country, because you would rather have him president than the country succeed. That's just clear. And Kelly in particular has been shitting on the Capitol cops and our own soldiers since they turned on Trump and didn't do his bidding.
We saw him do what he promised he would, fighting for us. That wasn't some silly bumper sticker. We saw him.
Yeah, it was. The wall didn't do shit. What was all the clamoring about NATO? It did nothing. It emboldened Russia. What about getting out of the Iran deal? All it did was create more opportunities for them to share technology and stuff with North Korea and other countries.
Do it every single day. So they can't stop.
When he wasn't golfing, which is, obviously only about 27% of the time he was president.
Trump. They're trying to stop us. And you know how you do that these days? Call anybody a racist, and you're supposed to be canceled forever. All right? So they're taking racism and white supremacy.
Well, you can't just call somebody racist. You actually you do have to have a reason for it. You have to show their racism as part of it. It doesn't work as a catch-all. Otherwise, it waters down the term, quite frankly.
To the next level. By the way, both are bad, but both are not particularly significant, in my opinion, and actually...
Really, Greg, you don't experience a lot of racism? Good to know. Good to know, buddy. I'm glad. I mean, it's a terrible thing to have to experience, and if one person can avoid it,
regarding white supremacy, according to the FBI. Anyway, look at the new legislation they've been pushing. It sounds great, all right? HR
350.
350. And what would it do? To authorize dedicated domestic terrorism offices within the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Great. I hate domestic terrorism. But how do they define domestic terrorism? Oh, yeah. It's all about...
To analyze and combat white supremacy and neo-Nazi infiltration.
Supremacists and...
Hold on. Let's hold on. Let's HR 350 bill, and this is obviously DHS. Let's see. Here you go. Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2021. Here we go. All actions. Let's see. Get alerts. It's been introduced. Got a ways to go. There's the text. All right. There's the text available, and these give me the PDF, baby. Come on, whip it out. There you go. I'm going to authorize domestic terrorism. Okay, prevent. To authorize dedicated domestic terrorism, okay, within the act will cite domestic terrorism. In this act, term director will have the director, and they're going to foreign persons, individual organization, domestic terrorism executive committee, who's going to, all the defining, who works it, who does it. Offices to combat domestic terrorism unit, authorized domestic terrorism unit in the Office of Intelligence and Analysis, Department of Defense, Homeland Security, shall be headed by staffing, there you go, require all employees to undergo an annual anti-bias training so that they don't have bias towards white people like Greg Kelly. Because if you spend a lot of time watching Greg Kelly, you might get the impression that all white people are stupid, and that'll affect how you how you treat them when you're investigating their stockpiling of weapons and their death threats towards elected officials. And you don't want that to happen. That's just not a good thing. Subsequent report, quantitative analysis, term related is assessment, including the number of assessments from each classification, in a subcategory for those related. Okay, domestic terrorism related preliminary investigations initiative. Domestic terrorism related full investigations will also be in the thing. Domestic incidents, including the number of incidents from each classification, subcategory. What do you mean classification, subcategory? It's white people, white violence against everybody else. That's it. Yeah, okay. Or subcategory for those related to white supremacy, supremacism, the number of deaths and injuries related to the thing. Federal domestic terrorism related arrests, including the number of arrests in each classification, subcategory specified subcategory related to white supremacism, details thing. Federal domestic terrorism related incidents, subcategory related to white supremacists. Federal domestic terrorism prosecutions, including the number of things. Okay, there's the white supremacists. Domestic terrorism convictions, including the number of convictions, classification subcategory. Let's see. For those related to white supremacy, a detailed explanation of those of each conviction. Federal. This is one section about there. Okay, hate crimes. In compiling a joint report under the subsection domestic terrorism offices authorized under paragraph constitutes Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. So you go look into the thing. Classification, public release. Each report submitted to everything. Unclassified, the great extent. Classified. Okay, who? Hold on one second. Mr. Schneider for himself, Mr. Nadler, Fitzpatrick, Kelly of Illinois, Bacon, Vincent Gonzalez, Texas, Upton, and Mr. Korea. Introduced the following bills referred to the committee by the judiciary. Subsequently. Okay, I'm going to scroll through here. Oh, here we go. Right. Okay. With a specific classification or subcategory for those related to white supremacism and a detailed explanation of each prosecution. So this is all of the subcategories with a specific classification subcategory for those about white supremacism, because there isn't one. Now, let's look at the threats. Well, we'll let him continue. To analyze and combat white supremacists and neo-Nazi infiltration, an assessment of the domestic terrorism threat posed by white supremacists and neo-Nazis. As if they won't look at other ones? Okay.
Nazis, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists. White supremacists. Nothing in here about BLM, nothing in here about Antifa. It's all about...
Well, first of all, BLM is not a terrorist organization. Antifa itself is already in its own category.
About white supremacists, and I'm sure there are a handful of those weirdos in this country, and if they break the
A handful? Yeah, there's like 5 of them.
law, they should be arrested right away. It's just not a thing.
No, they shouldn't. Only if they act in a violent way or inflict it on somebody else. Are you for thought crimes, Greg? You can't arrest somebody just for being a white supremacist. They got to do some illegal shit. I mean, it sounds lovely, but I find it strange that you're calling for such draconian, tyrannical, and dictatorial policies.
Right? So they keep inventing it.
Thanks,
they
Stephen.
keep lying about it. Even those Proud Boys, the Proud Boys is not a white supremacist group. All right? It's not. It is a fake
Are they're not listed in the thing?
news lie that caught on. By the way, they can't explain Enrique Tarrio, the head of the Proud Boys, who's of Afro-Cuban descent. And oh, by the way, he's in jail right now. Why? Because he burned a Black
Why?
Lives Matter sign. Can you believe that one?
What? Yeah, he arson and taking someone else. I mean, it wasn't. Hey, it's not a target, but it counts.
All right, so somehow Enrique is a white supremacist. Let's see. Candace Owens is a white supremacist. Larry
Yeah, she's not going to be targeted by this. I mean, I'm enjoying the conflation.
Elder recently ran for governor in California, a white supremacist. And this one is actually
From GWN.
particularly galling because I happen to know him and I happen to think he's a very decent guy. Tucker
Oh well, actually, well then that explains. I mean, damning with faint praise and guilt by association being true things. I would have stopped at Larry Elder.
Carlson is a white supremacist. It is now.
Well, his head writer was literally writing like white supremacist fanfic, essentially, on Reddit threads under an assumed name, and he knew it. And they didn't let go of the guy until they got caught. And you don't think he hired him specifically because of that?
A joke. Something horrible, something ugly. White supremacy is now a joke because they're accusing everybody they don't agree with of being a white supremacist.
According to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today.
One of the greatest.
Yes. Right. Hold on. No. Yes. Domestic. Lethal threat to the homeland. The most lethal domestic threat. That's the biggest threat currently. I mean, we're not talking about Russian nukes or Chinese warplanes and stuff. That's a foreign issue. And I would think you'd be proud, Greg. Wouldn't you? And wouldn't the Proud Boys be glad to know that even though they're a minority in the country, white supremacists are the biggest domestic threat? Congratulations. Way to really put your shoulder to the wheel.
Threats to our national security is domestic terrorism manifested by white supremacists.
I obviously am very concerned about the rise of extremism and extremism related to white supremacy.
The FBI has warned repeatedly that domestic terrorism fueled by white supremacy is the #1 threat to the United States right now.
White supremacy is the biggest bucket of concern when it comes to domestic terrorism.
Yeah, of the Timothy McVeighs in the world, the white ones are the biggest concern.
Okay, that's not true. It's not true. Talk to the law enforcement experts, okay? Islamic extremists, they still want to hurt this country. They do.
Yeah, that they're the foreign problem. Domestic terrorism. This is hey, dum-dum. This is a bill to authorize dedicated domestic terrorism offices within the DHS, the Department of Justice, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to analyze and monitor domestic terrorist activity and require the federal government to take steps to prevent domestic terrorism. Dumbass. ISIS is not a homegrown American problem, stupid.
Deny it. Antifa, BLM, they hurt this country every day for a year and a half. But they say white supremacy, especially...
Yeah, they blew a bunch of targets and firebombed a bunch of garbage cans and spray painted some shit. None of them attacked the Capitol, though.
Democrats win, they're in a jam. Now, here in New York, we have a new mayor. He's not up to the job, all right? I am not impressed with this guy. Anyway, he's making all kinds of...
Really? What is it about him that really bugs you, Greg? What's the... I mean, if you had to... If there was one thing about him that kind of... that upset you the most, what would... I mean, if you had to narrow it down to a single feature...
Silly appointments, nepotism galore. He wants to make his brother the deputy commissioner of the police department. That's a big...
Dude, your dad was the commissioner. And he covered for your head. Hold on. That's the, let's see, Greg and Kelly. Hold on one second. Where's his dad? Hold on. Greg Kelly, dad. Let's just look that up. Yeah, Raymond Kelly. TV anchor. That's your... Not shy about being police leader's son. Yeah, it gives him kind of wiggle room to shit on police. Mr. Kelly's resemblance to his father has always been part of his professional persona. No wonder he likes Trump so much. We're both daddy's boys.
Stretch.
You need Al Pacino?
Listen to his...
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, you might need somebody to... let's see. Oh, I gotta cover this. We'll talk about this. I like a... All right. All right.
You've appointed your brother, a fellow retired police officer, as a deputy commissioner for the NYPD. Is that true? And if so...
Oh, I'm going to have your job, shithead.
Doesn't that at least violate the spirit of the law in New York, which says public servants, friends, and family members should not benefit from their positions?
My brother is qualified for the position. Number one, he will be in charge of my security.
Hey, that wasn't the question. Hey, not the question. Question. Dumbass. Ma. Huh? Yo. Moron. That wasn't the question. What was the question? What was the question? The question was, why'd you put your father in the job?
which is extremely important to me in a time when we see an increase in white supremacy and hate crimes. I have to take my security in a very serious way.
An increase in white supremacy. So I live in this city, all right? There is an increase in crime, all right? It's not coming from white supremacists, all right?
Oh, what? Look at his fucking face. What are you talking about? Look at his face. Look at his face. Oh, you mean black fellas, don't you? Say it. Say it, you coy little fucker.
It's just not. It happens to be coming from people of color, quite frankly. It's
fucking hell.
It's undeniable. It's there, all right? Not white supremacy. So his brother is going to be the new deputy police commissioner.
Yeah, but hey, purse snatchers aren't going to be killing the mayor, dumb fuck.
He's not qualified, of course. Take a look. Well, maybe he is. Maybe I'm being too harsh. He is.
No, you're not being harsh. You're being stupid, motherfucker. All right.
After all, just off a big job as the assistant director of parking for Virginia Commonwealth University, the Monroe campus, handing out parking passes, arranging for the assistant.
Oh, you're saying like, just go with this, like like just because somebody's dad was like in an elected position or an appointed position, like, you know, the mayor or police commissioner, does not mean that they are automatically qualified. Is that what you're saying?
To park close to the building. All right, that was his job. But that's what you do. You claim white supremacy when you can't explain an.
Well, that's Adams's brother. He looks different than I thought.
Appointment, or when you're in trouble politically, like Governor Murphy did in a recent debate when it was looking very bleak for him in terms of re-election. What did he do?
There's so much on the ballot. There's so much at stake. Do we stand with our sacred democracy, or do we stand with Confederate flags and white supremacists and a pack of lies? Do we stand? Do we continue? Do we continue to make the tough?
I wish we could hear that noise whenever the fake news started talking about white supremacy and that Trump support.
And the Trump supporters are the ones who brought a Confederate flag into the fucking nation's capital, which they did. Sorry, what member of BLM or Antifa brought a fucking Confederate flag, the pro-slavery navel jack, into the Capitol, you asshole?
Or somehow white supremacists, because that's how we feel. It's nonsense. It's a disgusting charge.
Well, Greg, but again, I have a hard time believing that you look in the mirror and thinking you're superior. I think you have like brutally low self-esteem. And I think Trump appeals to that in you because he gives you kind of a ladder out of the hell that you feel in your soul. I don't think you see it as a point of supremacy on your part. That says nothing. Tell you what, Greg, let me just clear up something. Whenever supremacy, someone being supremely good at something or bigger or better or at an elevated stature on a societal level, anytime something even remotely close to that topic comes up, just for the record, we're not talking about you. No one is. When the rest of us are discussing supremacy, fuck, if we bring up the Supremes, I just understand you'll be tone deaf when any of the songs come on. There is no, yeah, Greg is a generic Tucker. He's like the Fisher-Price Tucker. Yeah, if anytime supremacy comes up, we don't mean you. There's no one who would think you are supreme in any way. You're not part of that conversation. I don't want you to ever feel insulted when it comes up because you more than any other person, maybe even Trump. Again, when we're discussing, if I say orange supremacy, you might be onto something. But either of you Just consider yourself. This is a sidecar conversation. It's nothing to do with you.
You might even call it a false flag. False flag. Have you heard about this? A false flag.
Yes, we've heard about this. That's an action, by the way. This is the narrative is that, and I don't know if he's trying to squeak this in, that Antifa and the FBI and BLM, tricked Trump supporters into storming into the Capitol. They wouldn't have otherwise, and therefore.
Hostile or harmful action that is designed to look like it was perpetrated by someone other than the person or group responsible for it. I think there's something.
Oh, you mean like the Boogaloo Boys starting violence during the George Floyd protests in Minneapolis and Seattle? You mean that kind of shit?
To that, and we're also seeing that.
Okay. Greg Kelly, motherfucker, yeah. Wop, wah. I think we did learn something from that. I think we did, that when now we know why Greg Kelly gets so upset when the concept of white supremacy comes up, because probably when he hangs out with groups of white supremacists, even they are like, Greg, you don't make the cut. We don't mean you. We'll take Alex Jones as an example of white supremacy, not you. You're third tier at best. Sorry, buddy. Even in white supremacy, there's a bit of a caste system. You ain't it. You're dirtying up the works, pal. You're driving. 792 likes and 1,300 people in the chat today. Crazy pants. Awesome. I'm so happy, you guys, that the numbers are like getting crazy. Remember when we started this whole thing out? We had like 50 people on Twitch. It's a beautiful thing. So it's nice. I'm glad that not only can I provide you with a place to relieve the anxiety and concern that any of these assholes actually pose a threat to anything or anyone, that Trump and Danny Balls and Greg Kelly and all those folks, just it's a bunch of fapping nonsense. I'm not. You need not be worried at all. And I want you to know that. And I'm glad to be able to do that, and that we can have even trolls show up and they're like, "Phew,